NNPC Limited, the 210 trillion Nigerian Naira's question. It started as a routine audit, a simple compliance check, but what the auditors found inside NNPC Limited's books was anything but simple. Crude sales without records, liabilities without contracts, internal memos showing 10 trillion naira pending reconciliation. And then came the number that froze every room in Abuja, 210 trillion naira, unaccounted for. Now, the National Assembly Committee on Public Accounts has stepped in, summoning top NNPC executives to explain the missing trillions. Is it an accounting error, or the biggest cover-up in Nigeria's corporate history? From true crime forensic media comes a story of numbers, power, and silence. NNPC Limited, the 210 trillion naira question, the full probe edition, streaming now. Please like, share, subscribe, and follow us for more intriguing true crime forensic stories that uncover the truth behind every case.
NPC Limited, the 210 trillion naira question. In the silent corridors of Abuja's financial power, a discovery shook the foundations of Nigeria's oil industry. When auditors laid bare the books of NNPC Limited, the company that manages Nigeria's most precious resource, they uncovered a number so vast it defied belief. 210 trillion naira unaccounted for, vanished within the ledgers of the nation's oil giant. The figure wasn't an allegation from an activist group or a rumor on social media. It came from a formal audit report, a deep, methodical examination of the company's assets, liabilities, and transactions since its transformation from the old Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation into a limited liability company under the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021. The report revealed a gaping hole: 107 trillion naira in assets and 103 trillion naira in liabilities, both unverified, both unresolved. A financial puzzle so complex, it has now drawn the full attention of the National Assembly's Committee on Public Accounts. Here comes the audit that changed everything. It began as a routine financial review, a compliance exercise following the government's insistence that all public entities turned corporate must publish transparent accounts. But what auditors found inside NNPC Limited's books was anything but routine. Entire categories of transactions, crude sales, joint venture settlements, and foreign remittances lacked documentation. Some asset valuations appeared inflated beyond reason, while liabilities were booked without corresponding contract records. In certain divisions, internal memos referred to pending reconciliation for amounts exceeding 10 trillion naira, with no clear time frame for resolution. One line in the report stood out: the total variance between reported assets and traceable records amounts to 107 trillion naira, pending verification. In accounting terms, pending verification can mean delay. In political terms, it can mean danger. As word of the audit spread, public pressure mounted. Civil society organizations demanded answers. Editorials called for transparency. And soon, the National Assembly's Committee on Public Accounts, PAC, issued its own summons. The committee invited top executives of NNPC Limited, including the Group Chief Executive Officer and Chief Financial Officer, to appear before lawmakers and explain the 210 trillion naira discrepancy. It was a move unprecedented in scale, the most significant legislative probe into Nigeria's oil finances since the subsidy investigations of 2012. At the hearing room inside the National Assembly complex, the air was thick with tension. Documents stacked in front of the lawmakers, microphones lined across the panel table, and journalists waiting to record every word. The committee chair opened the session with a pointed statement: Nigeria cannot move forward when 210 trillion naira cannot be accounted for. These are not rumors. These are audit figures. And this committee demands full disclosure, But as the executives spoke, clarity faded into technicalities. They cited valuation models, currency fluctuations, and transition adjustments. They blamed inherited liabilities and disputed the auditor's interpretation. They promised ongoing reconciliation. Still, for every answer, two more questions emerged. To understand how 210 trillion naira could slip into confusion, investigators had to dissect NPC Limited structure. A labyrinth of subsidiaries, joint ventures, and offshore accounts. At the top sits the holding company, controlling over 20 business entities, including NNPC, Upstream Investment Management Services, NNPC Trading, and several refinery management units. Each subsidiary keeps its own accounts, sometimes denominated in dollars, pounds, or euros, and sometimes in naira. Auditors discovered that several of these subsidiaries had not submitted proper financial statements since before the company's transition in 2021. Some joint venture records still carried the old NNPC's letterheads. In one case, an audit trail of over 2.7 trillion naira in pipeline maintenance costs led to contracts that could not be traced to any registered vendor. Sources within the audit process described a pattern of institutional resistance. Requests for documents were delayed. Some digital records were inaccessible due to migration. And in one department, auditors were reportedly told that certain files were classified as legacy documents under review. Forensic accountants noted that the liabilities side of the ledger, 103 trillion naira, included massive unpaid obligations to joint venture partners, contractors, and local communities affected by oil operations. But the 107 trillion naira in assets, including physical infrastructure, reserves, and receivables, could not be independently verified due to poor record keeping. The numbers, one analyst said, were a balance sheet written in smoke, come the public outcry. As the probe unfolded, Nigerians reacted with a mix of disbelief and exhaustion. How could 210 trillion naira, more than twice the country's entire annual GDP, go missing? Unverified or undocumented, civil society coalitions demanded that the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation conduct a forensic audit, not just a financial review, tracing every transaction back to source. Others called for the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to open a parallel investigation into potential fraud or misappropriation. But inside the committee rooms, the tone remained cautious. Lawmakers, wary of political pressure, sought evidence before accusation. They demanded that NNPC Limited submit all subsidiary accounts, JV contracts, and payment receipts within 30 days. Still, as days turned into weeks, the documents trickled in slowly, incomplete, redacted, or inconsistent. Is this a corporate transformation or an accounting mirage? When an NPC became an NPC Limited under the Petroleum Industry Act, Nigerians were promised a company reborn, efficient, transparent, and profit-driven. The transformation was celebrated with fanfare. A new logo, new leadership, a public listing in the future. But beneath the rebranding, the audit suggests that old habits survived the new name. Legacy debts from decades of subsidy payments, opaque swap deals, and international loan obligations still haunt the books. Even more troubling, the company's internal controls, digital and manual, remain weak, leaving billions vulnerable to misstatement or loss. Today, the 210 trillion naira gap stands as a symbol of something far deeper. The struggle between reform and reality in Nigeria's oil sector. The National Assembly's probe continues, with new witnesses called weekly. Behind closed doors, committees are reviewing boxes of financial records and bank statements, searching for truth buried in figures. Yet the answers remain elusive. Is the 210 trillion naira a mere accounting distortion, or a trail leading to hidden wealth siphoned through decades of systemic rot? One senior auditor, speaking anonymously, said, "We are not just reconciling figures. We are chasing ghosts through history, moral and call to action." Numbers can lie, but records don't. When 210 trillion naira cannot be traced, it's not just a financial anomaly. It's a moral failure. Nigeria's oil belongs to its people. Its wealth should build schools, roads, hospitals, not vanish into paperwork and silence until every kobo is accounted for. The 210 trillion naira question will remain open, and the world will keep asking, where did the money go?